Pam Om Mani Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service. This morning we're going to meditate few minutes. After that, going to give a Dhamma talk, followed by the question and answer. Right now, Stephen Subodha is going to lead the Metta meditation. Subodha.
Let's begin by closing our eyes. Try to find a relaxed but alert position. Let's begin with 3 breaths that feel especially satisfying. In and out. Then allow the breath to find its own rhythm. But you might ask yourself, what rhythm feels peaceful, calm, pleasant right now? And as you take those steady, calm breaths, bring your attention to yourself as you're sitting here, sitting at home, wherever it is you may be. And extend a wish, an intention for yourself, that you may be happy, truly happy. And not only that, that you're able to recognize the means for true happiness and have the wherewithal to see it through. And as you set that intention for your own true happiness and welfare, use the breath to spread that intention throughout your body. A true sense of goodwill for yourself. From there, you might think of those closest to you, your family, your loved ones, your friends. In the same way, try to spread good intentions towards them. Intentions for their true happiness, that they're able to recognize the means for true happiness, that they are able to see it through. True goodwill for those closest to you. Then think of those not so close to you. Perhaps acquaintances, people you like, but maybe you don't know that well. Try to do the same for people that you don't like, maybe you know well or maybe not so well. And then try to do the same for everyone, everywhere. That same goodwill that you spread throughout your body with the breath, you can imagine that goodwill spreading out in all directions. Out in front of you, behind you, to the left and right, above and below. And with that good intention, with that goodwill that you have spread outward from yourself, beginning with yourself, to all beings, Let us continue resting in that as we continue to follow the breath. And please continue doing so until you hear the bell.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Stephen, for the short period of meditation leading. Now it's time for the Dhamma talk. Today our speaker, Reverend Kusala. Kusala, you can start your talk right now.
All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you're staying cool today if you can. It's going to be hot, but this reminds us that the Buddha was absolutely correct. Life is ultimately unsatisfactory, and our weather is there to prove it. So today I'm going to talk about how to die well, according to Buddhism. Can Buddhism help us die well and get reborn? So the first thing we need to talk about is what Siddhartha saw as he went through the streets of the city with his charioteer Chanda. And as you know, he saw four things. He saw this really sick guy, this really old guy, this really dead guy, and this really holy person. And he hadn't seen them before in the way he saw them on that day. And I think what happened was he decided that rather than taking over the kingdom from his father, he was going to be a holy person and find the answers to life. And the primary answer was, after all the suffering he had seen on that day, how to end suffering and how to talk about it. So as we know, he succeeded and he achieved nirvana, and then he never had to be reborn again. But there are 7 billion of us on earth who will be reborn again in some realm of existence. So what does early Buddhism have to say about that? And what are the contributions to afterlife that the Mahayana gave us? Well, the first thing, when I came to Buddhism, I was really surprised that they had heaven and hell, and up to 33 heavens and 33 hells. It's pretty amazing. We have so many places to go. I'm going to adjust my camera here. It's pretty amazing we have so many places to go, and none of us know how to get there. So what did the Buddha say about the transmigration from one life to the next? Well, he said basically this, that he looked carefully in mind and body, and he saw nothing that stood independently, that existed without other things, that wasn't subject to change. So when it comes to having a soul, according to the Indian tradition of soul, or having a self, according to the Western tradition of having self, he came up empty. He couldn't find it any place. And one of the stories I read about that was back in the I think it was the 30s or 40s, when they invented X-ray machines. So what they were going to do is they were going to take the X-ray machine and X-ray a person from top to bottom and find out where the soul resided. At that point, some people said it was behind the pituitary gland. Some people said it was behind the heart, but the X-ray machine would now give us the correct information. And they did that on a few people and couldn't find anything that resembled a soul or what they thought a soul should look like. But they did get radiation poisoning, I understand. And so it wasn't such a good thing. So here we go. So what migrates from lifetime to lifetime, from existence to existence, from realm to realm? It's our karmic energy, our karmic energy. So now what we need to understand is that karma can help us during life, and karma can help us in our afterlife as well. So what is karma? Karma is everything we think, everything we say, and everything we do. Those are the three aspects of karma. And I like to look at it this way. that we have this karma and we have this neutral energy in the world and in the universe. And every time we think, say, or do anything, what we're doing is transforming this neutral energy and giving it a moral value. So we can have speech, and we can have skillful speech, and we can have unskillful speech, and both kinds of speech has a consequence. The consequence of skillful speech is pleasant. The consequence of unskillful speech is unpleasant. And the same goes for action. Skillful action, oftentimes, most of the time, leads to pleasant consequences, and unskillful action will lead to unpleasant consequences. So here we are faced with the dilemma of having to live and then having to die. And how are we supposed to die well as a Buddhist? It seems to me the first thing we need to do is focus on our karma and understand that it is part from lifetime to lifetime. And our job is to create as much good karma, as much skillful karma in this lifetime, so we can migrate to the next lifetime and we can have a good rebirth. Now, if you're not Buddhist or Hindu, this rebirth thing may sound a bit odd to you, and it may even sound like it couldn't possibly be true. But here in the West, we can also take it to mean that we are reborn moment after moment, day after day, week after week, in this very lifetime, depending on what we think, what we say, and what we do. And sometimes we have really good days that are memorable, and other times our days aren't so good, and we like to forget those. But it deals with our thinking, speaking, and acting. Now, the intention is where it all starts. The Buddha said there are 3 poisons we need to be aware of. The first poison is greed and attachment. The second poison, hatred and anger. The third poison, delusion and ignorance. These 3 poisons are with us our entire life. And for a Buddhist, we have an opportunity through our meditation practice to transform our greed into generosity, to transform our hatred and anger into kindness and compassion, and to transform our delusion and ignorance into wisdom and clarity. As we practice, we start to see that the thoughts arise, exist, and pass away. And sometimes in mindfulness training, the idea is to attach a label to the thought. Skillful thought, unskillful thought. Skillful thought, unskillful thought. With the eventual practice of not having to react to the unskillful thought and turning the skillful thought into action and speech. So we spend a lot of time simply sitting and waiting for the thoughts to arise, exist, and pass away. As we become more confident in our meditation practice, we start to realize that we do not have to be those thoughts. We are not who we think we are. Our thinking process happens because of mind, and it continues in spite of us. It happens all day, it happens all night through dreams, and yet we would like to direct our thinking process in a good way. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And the idea is to not have to react to the unskillful thoughts that mind creates, and to act again to the skillful thoughts. Okay, so here we are, and we're thinking and contemplating about our death, and we're getting old, and we don't really want to die, and yet the Buddha assured us that everything that is born and exists has to die. And sometimes we die young, sometimes we die middle-aged, sometimes we die old. But each time we are reborn into a realm of existence, we have the opportunity of changing that life, because in Buddhism, there is no fate and fatalism. It's not predestined to be anything. We have the opportunity through our choice and our practice to change our life anytime we are aware that it's going in a negative direction. A little bit about the afterlife, which I just find fascinating. It turns out that in Buddhist afterlife, heaven is up, hell is down. Now, how the heck did that happen? It sounds very Christian to me. And why does heaven always have to be up? Why can't heaven be down? I don't know, but that's what we're going to work with. Heaven is up and hell is down. 33 heavens, 33 hells, but I'm going to share with you the Reader's Digest of Buddhist afterlife, according to the early Buddhist tradition. The first heaven, the best heaven, the perfect place to be is where we may end up depending on our karma. Everything is perfect in just the way. We never want to change anything. There is nothing to change. We can't make it any better. It is the best. But, if it's Buddhism, they always throw something in there. And what they threw in was, you got to leave sooner or later because everything changes. And the karma that puts you into that heaven will eventually wear out and be depleted. And at that moment, you have to leave and become reborn in another realm of existence. Disheartening, to say the least. The second heaven, almost as good as the first heaven, but in this heaven, we have a little bit of desire. And the desire goes like this. Oh, I wish it could be better. I wish I could see my old pet, Lucky the dog. I wonder where he is. Why can't it be the way I think it should be? After all, this is heaven. And it never turns out to be exactly the way you want it to be. And that desire will not put you in a place of peace and happiness. Okay, but eventually you have to leave because everything changes. And now you're ejected from that second heaven. And the third realm of existence is the human realm. That's where we all are. That's where the Dharma is. That's where the Buddha was. And this is the best place for us to be, because there's just enough pain and suffering to keep us honest in striving for the answer. And there's just enough joy and happiness available to us so we won't take our own life in most cases. Okay, so here we are. And then we've had these 28 Buddhas that have visited the human realm and have left behind their Dharma, their teachings on how to achieve the final peace, the final release, and we will call that nirvana. But unlike the heaven realms, which could last for up to 100,000 human lifetimes, the human realm was maybe 60, 70, 80 years, which sounds really like a long time when you're 20. But when you get to be 60 or 70, it doesn't seem quite long enough. Okay, so now we got the human realm, we've got the two heaven realms, and now we come to the first hell realm. And this may surprise you. The first hell realm is the animal realm. That's where all our cats and dogs and parakeets and parrots and fish live, along with all the other animals on this planet. They are considered to be in a hell realm. And the reason that's the case is not because they're necessarily bad, but they're ignorant and they're instinctual. They only want to do two things, only want to do three things during their entire life. The first thing they want to do is they want to eat. They really like eating. I feed the cats every day. They enjoy that moment. The second thing they want to do is they want to sleep. They sleep hours at a time. Dogs, cats, whatever it is. Humans too. But the animal realm, it's eating and sleeping. And the third thing they want to do is they want to have sex. They want to keep their species alive. So we've got eating, sleeping, and sex. And that's all they do. And they're limited to that view, that worldview, because they're born in the animal realm. Now, I know some humans that do the same thing. And so we can't be too hard on the animals. But the humans have an opportunity to go past that through compassion and wisdom. All right. Now, the next hell realm is called the hungry ghost realm. And they are these giant creatures, 10 feet tall. And they have a big belly. And they have a little pinhole for a mouth. And no matter how hard they try to put the food to the pinhole of the mouth, their hunger is never satisfied because their belly is so big. And they go through their entire life in the hungry ghost realm, being dissatisfied and hungry and wishing they had enough to eat or could eat what they had. So none of us really want to get there. Doesn't sound like much fun at all. And finally, we've got the worst hell realm of all. And imagine that you have a body image like you do now, and you find yourself in this hell realm, and it seems fine. You're walking in a park, and it's just sunrise, and the air is cool, and you're just amazed that this is a hell realm. And then all of a sudden, all the leaves on a tree turn into razor blades and fall out of the tree and cut you into 1,000 pieces, and you scream in pain and agony and displeasure, and then you're resurrected again right on the spot to be killed again and again and again until you're finally killed enough times to be reborn out of the hell realm into a higher realm. So this is the Reader's Digest of what we have to look forward to in our afterlife and what we need to do to prepare for this afterlife. Now, there's a simple practice you can do depending on how old you are. And if you have the inclination to do it, it's keeping the good book. So the good book is not Christian. The good book is the good things you do in your life. So you get a binder or a book with blank pages, and every day you write down 3 good things that you did on that day. And then you go to the next day and you write down 3 good things. Now, the deal is when you're dying, when you're on your deathbed, you want to get a friend or a family member or maybe a nurse to read to you from your good book on all the good things that you've done. And this will have a transformative effect on your mind and consciousness. Oftentimes, I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but oftentimes you can wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're wide awake. And now you're thinking to yourself of all the stupid, dumb, and unskillful things you've ever done. They all just seem so real and in the moment. That mind state you don't want when you're dying. You want the mind state of a healthy, skillful, wholesome remembrance of what you've done in this lifetime. Even if you've done some stupid and dumb things, every day you've done good things as well. And those are the things you want to remember, because what they say is this: the last thought in this lifetime is the first thought in the next lifetime. Okay, so you want to have a really good last thought. And now we come to the contribution of the Mahayana tradition in order to have a good last thought. There's a bodhisattva turned Buddha called Amitabha Buddha. And Amitabha Buddha has a heaven realm called the Pure Land. And he said, anybody who has faith, vow, and devotion towards me will be reborn in my heaven realm, the Pure Land, and everything in my heaven realm speaks the Dharma. The rabbits speak the Dharma, the coyotes speak the Dharma, the birds speak the Dharma, the babbling brook speaks the Dharma. And because everything speaks the Dharma, you will achieve nirvana in this heaven realm and be reborn out of it. Okay, now this is the deal. Buddhism says there's only one thing that's unborn and undying. There's only one place you can go where you'll never have to suffer again. There's only one place you can go where your karma stops. There's only one place you can go where you never have to worry about the future or the past, because you will be in the present moment for eternity. And this place is called nirvana. Now, people say to me, but Kusala, what is nirvana? Can you give me just a thumbnail sketch of nirvana? And you know what? The Buddha never really went into great detail about the nirvana. He just sort of like hinted at it and talked about it and shared his enthusiasm about it with his followers and his students. Okay, so it this way. That in the backyard of the meditation center, we have a fish pond, and we have fish in there. And for a long time, we had a couple turtles as well that lived in the fish pond. But see, the difference between the fish and the turtles was the turtle could leave the fish pond and sun itself on a rock. Now, I imagined in my mind that wouldn't it have been interesting if the fish acquired about what it's like to be outside the pond? And they went to the turtle and say, turtle, can you enlighten us? Can you tell us what it's like to be out of the water? And no matter what the turtle said about what it meant to be free in the air and not in the water, the fish couldn't understand because it was beyond their experience. They had no way of putting it into their reality. And I'm feeling the same way about the Buddha explaining nirvana to the average person, or even the monks and nuns, that it's out of their experience. There's nothing that they can think of that was unborn and undying and exists not because of birth, but because of nirvana. Now, okay, so is there a certain amount of faith involved in all this kind of stuff? Yeah, you know, in a way there is. But the thing about Buddhism, it doesn't ask you to only have faith. What Buddhism says is you start with faith. That's the first step. And then after you've been practicing for a while, that faith transforms into confidence, because you have tested the teachings of the Buddha and they have been proven to be true. And so now when the Buddha talks about afterlife, you just assume that because everything else the Buddha said, and in your practice, you have proven it to be true, that is also true. Okay, so here you are, and you're lying on your deathbed, and then your friend or relative is reading from the good book, the book that you've put together over a period of days, months, or years, and now your mind is slowly being transformed into positive energy, and then the body finally stops working, and you are released. That karmic energy is released back into the universe. Now, if you've taken bodhisattva vows, you don't necessarily want to go to heaven, and you surely don't want to go to hell, but you do want to come back as a human being, because the bodhisattva vows are forever. And the reason they're forever is because you've chosen to save all sentient beings. And how many sentient beings do we have right now to save? A little over 7 billion sentient beings to save. So it's going to take you a few thousand lifetimes to get all the suffering gone from Earth and everybody enlightened or achieving nirvana. So the human realm is a good place. We should be happy that we're here. If by some chance of hard work and practice you make it to the heaven realm, enjoy it. It's a vacation, because one day you'll have to be reborn out of that back into the different realms of existence. Okay, I think that probably covers it for today. And I'm curious if anybody has any questions or comments on what I've said, or if they have thought about it as well. So let me know. And we have, okay. Stephen Kaiser, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, it reminds me what you said about being a bodhisattva. It reminds me of the myth of Sisyphus, who was condemned by the gods to push this big stone up the hill only to have it knocked down again. So Sisyphus, goes through eternity pushing this stone up the hill. And it reminds me of what the fate of bodhisattva is, because, achieving enlightenment is, I imagine, is endless. So there cannot be any bodhisattvas that have moved on from the state of being a bodhisattva. They're condemned to that for eternity, it sounds like. I don't know if you ever thought of it in those terms.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're condemned. I would say it's a conscious choice on their part to be of service to all sentient beings, to reduce or end the suffering that's in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so what the problem is, I think, when you become a bodhisattva, is that you, with great clarity, see all the suffering in the world. You see there's no place you can go on this planet where there isn't suffering. Even if you go to Hawaii for a vacation, everybody is sunburned and uncomfortable. So it becomes quite an amazing adventure. And also it takes a certain kind of person to want to do that. Most people I know don't want to do that. They just want to go to the movies, have a good life, watch a little football once in a while, and then die well and go to heaven. So to take that burden on, to see the suffering and realize that because all things are interconnected and interdependent, that their suffering turns out to be your suffering.
Thank you.
Okay. Victor, how about you? There he is.
Hello, how are you?
Fine.
That's I love the talk today. I think it's your quick version of it all was very clear, very clear, which is wonderful. The one thing I always wondered about, the one thing I always had trouble with is this last thought idea. Because I think the majority of the people who die, a great majority, don't have the opportunity to have a last thought.
Yeah.
In my experience of seeing dead people, there's no opportunity given either drugs or a quick violent death. So it always makes me kind of nervous that so much is put onto one's last thought rather than one's whole life.
Yeah, well, that's really a good point. And I think the deal is for us, the meditator, is that we're more conscious of the idea of not being overly medicated, that we still want to have some clarity even in the last moment.
Right.
Because that choice we make in that last moment can determine our future life, our rebirth.
But I'm thinking of one of those people who don't have that opportunity for the last moments. A lot of people die suddenly.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't have a book with all the good things they've done.
Right, exactly.
And a lot of people will have negative thoughts as their last thoughts,
right,
rather than good thoughts as their last thoughts. When I helped one of the people used to come to the center to meditate in, and he ended up getting cancer, and he went to the VA hospital. And I had a chance to see him a few times before he died. And I suggested that they turn off the TV because the TV was on in his room the whole time. And, you know, you've got the commercials, you've got Oprah, you've got all the other things going on. And that's not a good last thought.
No.
So I brought him the little recorder of the Buddhist chanting. It's a little chant box that I had a few of, and I brought him, and he put it on the table next to his bed, and it's on a computer chip, and it just repeats over and over and over again, a Buddhist chant. And so that was filling his head, even though it was in another language and he couldn't understand it. It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
And then you bring up the fact of dying on the freeway, on the 405, 100 miles an hour, and it's instant. And so there's no chance to have a good last thought. There's only a chance to go, damn, and then you're gone, you know? And so that's why it's really important, for instance, if you're following the Pure Land tradition, to continue to chant Namo Amitabha Buddha during your day and during the evening, and when you're in your car and when you're grocery shopping, because unfortunately, we don't know when it's going to happen. And if you're not following the Pure Land tradition, you could also be reflecting on the loving kindness meditation and having those thoughts going through your head. So even if you had a sudden demise in an accident, that last thought would hopefully take you into the next realm. And if you've been practicing long enough, I think there's a certain kind of momentum built up that's even beyond us, that our mind continues to do it even if we're not conscious of it. So that's another way of looking at it too. And again, we're of an age now where, you know, these Dharma talks are really important. You know, it's not how to make $1 million, you know. 20 years ago, that might have been good. But now it's like, well, how can I die well? And one person said, you die well if you live well. And I thought, wow, that is so cool. You had 3 refuges, 5 precepts, understand how karma works, understand the 3 poisons. It helps your everyday life right now and will jettison you into a good afterlife. So dying well requires us to live well.
Right. That I agree with totally.
Thanks, Vixen.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything you'd like to add?
I have a conversation point, maybe not maybe a question, but
Okay.
And
who is speaking?
My name is Tay. I'm at the meditation center, just in front of the monks.
Okay.
There's this Buddhist teacher that I really like. His name's Jack Kornfield.
Yep.
And he has he said an interesting thing that I think about all the time, where he said, not in exact words, like save yourself the trouble of save yourself and others trouble and become a Buddha, not a Buddhist. And I'm just wondering maybe what you would have to say about thinking about your future lifetimes and heaven and hell and the relationship to those concepts and your desire and aversion to a judged better place or a worse place. What might you say to living a life where you're not really focused on the concepts and being within, even if it's a noble desire and a noble aversion, could that actually take you away from the present moment? Where, you know, like ideally you're in the present moment without thought, and that's already, and like in that presence, in that now, it's already a nirvana in a sense.
No.
Could you speak on that maybe?
Yeah, let me comment. That is not nirvana, number one. And the idea is not to stop thinking and just be in the present moment with no thought. Because we got like a lot of stuff to do. We got to go to the grocery store. We got to buy gasoline. We got to fix the fan that's broken. So it's not rejecting the world. It's not leaving it behind. And if you read the story of the Buddha, when he achieved his nirvana, he taught for 45 years. He went from village to village and town to town, teaching his Dharma. He didn't stop thinking. He had plenty of thoughts. The feeling I have though, he didn't become the thoughts. The thoughts were a tool that he used to convey the Dharma to help people suffer less. When you talk about becoming a Buddha, that's a very Mahayana kind of concept. That in Theravada Buddhism, early Buddhism, you become an arahant. Okay, an arahant is someone who achieves nirvana, the same nirvana that the Buddha achieved, but the arahant had a teacher. The thing that makes the Buddha different from an arahant is the Buddha rediscovered the path and achieved fruition, achieved nirvana through his own effort, compassion, and wisdom. So everybody that has a teacher or has listened to the Dharma or has read the Dharma is not going to be a Buddha. They're going to be an arahant that has achieved their nirvana. In the Mahayana tradition, everybody wants to be a Buddha. So when I came upon that concept, I wondered, well, how can everybody be a Buddha? There's only one Buddha at a time on earth. And then when that Buddha dies, then the next Buddha is reborn on earth. So how can everybody be a Buddha? And what it turns out is there are many realms of existence, many planets, many universes where they have Buddhas. This is not the only place that has Buddhas. They even went so far as to say, even a dust mote, a little dust mote flying through the air could have a Buddha on it. And that could be that realm of existence. So if you're Mahayana, you might want to become a Buddha. If you're Theravada, you might want to be an arahant. But in both cases, you have to think. You can't let those thoughts go. So it's not to be thoughtless. It's to actually be involved in your life and its present moment experience. And rather than reacting, you are responding in a dharmic way. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I think there's some just the imperfection of like words can make things a little confusing, but I guess I didn't mean like completely thoughtless, but like, yes, like I think you are saying the same thing, like rising above thought.
Well, now, it's not necessarily rising above thought. It's understanding what thought is.
Being aware of the thought.
And thought is just what the mind does, you know. And if you have a mind, you're going to be thinking, unless you've had a head injury of some sort, you know. And so, but the thing is, Buddhism says you don't have to be the thoughts. You just have them. They come and they go and they exist for a while, and they don't need to define you or who you are or what you do. It's a thought process. And I really like that, because back in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of misconceptions about that. You know, that I want to get to a place blissful and happy where I don't have to think about anything and I don't have to feel anything. And that'll be just the utopia that I've been looking for. And so a lot of people dropped out and, you know, and ended up just doing nothing and thinking nothing and not having any kind of life at all. So the Buddhists, you know, in 2022 is saying to themselves, I can't do that. There's too many people suffering. I got stuff to do. I got places to go. I got things to say that may be useful and they may help other people suffer less. And maybe at the end of my life, I can go to a cottage on the lake and put my feet in the pond and not have to do much or think much or be much, you know. But maybe that's not in the cards. Maybe I'm going to be doing this until that last breath. And then my podcast will do it for me after that. So it's just like, wow, it's, yeah. So I think I know where you're coming from, and you're absolutely right about language. Words are very difficult to understand because we give the words our own meaning, either dictionary meaning or an example of what we've lived and how we understand our life to be. But it's the only form of communication that we really have that can allow us to sort of understand what the other person is saying or what the other person means. And I think the bigger the vocabulary, perhaps the easier it is to express yourself, unless the other person doesn't have that vocabulary. And then you're sort of leaving them behind. So it's an interesting dilemma when we get into Dharma and talking and trying to convey what we really think and feel. But I thank you for your comment. I appreciate that. And there's International Buddhist Meditation Center over there. Okay, anybody else?
Kusala, do you believe there's currently an incarnated Buddha on Earth? One incarnated Buddha on Earth?
I don't, Steve, but I don't give it much thought either. So.
Well, I thought that was an extrapolation of what you were saying. There's only one Buddha incarnated on Earth at a time.
Yeah.
So maybe sometimes there's no incarnated Buddha and we're waiting for the next one to show up.
Well, Steve, it works like this. Once the last person who knows the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, our Buddha, dies, and when the teachings go away, that's when the next Buddha arises in the world. So you see, it's not when they die, it's when the last teaching dies. And then the new Buddha shows up. And we already know who the new Buddha is going to be, so we're really lucky with that. But there's still a lot of people that know the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama. So it's going to be a while before the next Buddha arises.
Well, aren't the teachings somewhat timeless? How do the teachings ultimately die?
When the last person that knows the teaching dies.
Oh, I see. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to remind you of the saying by Timothy Leary, to turn on, tune in, and drop out.
Yeah.
Advice that was followed by many of our contemporaries and still today.
Yes, Aaron Rodgers is one.
Right.
Know that story, Steve, about Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I know he's been microdosing on hallucinogenics lately, and it seems to be helping his football game.
There you go. And he's never been more in love with all the people he's in love with because of those psychedelics. And, that would be fine and well, according to me, if he wasn't a role model for tens of thousands of young people who want to be quarterbacks or play football or be like him.
Microdosing, you don't think should be a part of their future?
I don't think it should be. I would much rather encourage them to do vitamin D and probiotics.
But it might work for the current environment, indeed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kusala. It's almost 12 o'clock.
Okay.
Thanks for your good Dhamma talk. We're going to chant the page 4 and page 10. Right now, take your chanting book and let's start together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato
Arahato
samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Deluding passions are inexhaustible. I vow to them all. Dhamma gates are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha's way is supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering once be suffering free, and the fear stuck fearless be. May the grieving
shed all grief, and the sick find health relief.
Foka Unyani Nyada Susuni Sunyi Yadun Dadandam Mendi Kukung Lupo Fokat Uno Dinadang Tujun Sanyi Dadam Om Mani Thank you again for everybody. Next Sunday, the September 11th, our speaker is Nepalese Dhamma teacher, Sai Mahajan. Please come and join with us coming Sunday 11. Temple is open every Sunday. You can come and join with us. I know today is very hot, but I hope next week is going to be a little bit cooler. So try to come next week for everybody. Thanks for this, Stephen. Thanks for everybody, Ashan and everybody. And especially, I'm happy the Panyaloka is back to here. Okay. First Sunday of the every month, we start meditation 9:30 to 10:31 now. If you want to practice 1 hour meditation, please come only the first Sunday of the month. So this month is finished almost. Yes, Nam? Okay. If you really want, we can arrange again next month or the next week also, if you really want. But basically, we are thinking every first Sunday of the every month, 9:30 to 10:30, 1 hour meditation. Eventually, we are going to start more meditation program very soon. So try to come next week. Thanks again for everybody. By the power of the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, you all be well and happy. Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.